you ever look out into the vast sea of the universe and challenge even your own imagination? You don't think we're alone, do you? When you hear that the government is doing something, you always believe it, don't you? We are your third eye. This is Chasing Prophecy. Challenging your beliefs and pushing the boundaries of your imagination. If it's unexplained, we're talking about it. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, we cover everything from political mayhem and tyranny to alien abductions and paranormal phenomena. You are not alone. This is the Chasing Prophecy radio program. And now your hosts, Jenny Nicasio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chasing Prophecy live from New Orleans on FM 105.3 in Henderson Point, Mississippi, and 107.7 in New Orleans. This program is sponsored by United Public Radio. I'm your host, Jenny Nicasio. It's great to have you with us tonight, and I hope everyone had a great, in the United States, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We love to hear from you, so please make sure you post your questions in the chat, and we'll get through them throughout the show. So just bear with me because, like I told you, I'm back on the air since I haven't been on for a little bit, and everything's a little bit rusty, so bear with me. Okay, so I just want to say I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm so happy to see you all, and I'll get to you in just a second. But I want to also let you know that we are live throughout the United States, all over internationally. So make sure you put your comment and put where you're from. I'd love to know where you're from. But tonight, I want you to know that we're going to be joined by a very special guest. Okay. His name is Time Bair. He's the author of the profound book, Evernear, a series of love letters between soulmates, transcending our understanding of life and death. This is a great topic for all of us. So I just want to let you know Jim's story begins with a heart-wrenching loss, and I know we've all been there. And the passing of his beloved wife, Mari Lynn. But in the wake of this tragedy, something miraculous unfolds, and he's going to tell us all about that. So without further ado, I want to bring him on, and he can tell you a little bit more. So welcome to Chasing Prophecy. Tim, glad to have you here tonight.
Well, it's good to be here.
Great. So I just want to say a shout out to Cindy. Hi, Johnny. I'm glad you're here. And Casey, just let you know, the chat is open. I don't know if you can see the chat, Tim, but we have the chat going for our visual, our audience. So I just want to let you know. So Tim, I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so glad I found you. I thought when I found you, I thought that was great because this is something that, resonates with everyone here. And I know myself, and when you lose somebody you love, it's really nice to know that there is some kind of hope. But Tim, could you share a little bit about what inspired you to write this Evernear and the journey you led to this moment?
Sure. My wife and I, we met in about 1990. We were both married at the time. And it took a little while. We finally came together in rather spectacular fashion. It was my life took a very bad turn, and she was the only one that I trusted to help me. And from a simple meeting of me describing the trauma I was in, we were living together in 8 weeks. We realized that we were giving terrible examples to our children about how love actually works. Mm-hmm. Through that, we faced a lot of challenges, death threats from our exes, some pretty difficult circumstances for our children. We were married in 1996. In 2000, I fell and injured myself pretty severely. And she actually drove me to hundreds and hundreds of doctor's appointments and physical therapy appointments and through three surgeries.
Oh boy.
And just as that was resolving in about 2015, Mari Lynn started to feel poorly. And 15 months later, she passed of gastric cancer.
Wow.
Through our entire time together, from the very first meeting, it was obvious to us and everyone else around us that we had been together at some point in some other lifetime. However, our upbringing didn't allow for that.
Mm-hmm.
But we spoke about it often after we were married. It was just something that we understood. And as time went on, we began to believe that, well, if there was a before, well, there would be an after. And we were basically in the middle of this timeless love story.
Mm.
And through that, we kind of hoped that we would figure out how to be together if one of us should pass.
So you had this all figured out before?
We understood that it was a possibility, and we understood that those connections existed. We understood it so well that we didn't make plans for it at all. She passed away, and I was sitting there going, well, I know she's there. Exactly how do I contact her? How do I still be with her?
So you before she passed, you made like a bond between each other that you were going to try to communicate. Is that what happened?
Yes, yeah, we pretty much did. It was almost a silent knowing. We didn't talk about it a lot, but it was understood. Through my injury and then through her illness, there was a lot of times that we weren't able to even hold hands. I was in too much pain.
That's terrible.
So we learned over time that we didn't need bodies to be together in a profound way. It was just something we understood.
That's amazing.
And believing that life and consciousness existed beyond death, it was just kind of a simple deduction that we would be together in some form after. But we made no plans.
So once she passed away, when was the first time? Was this something that happened right away that you actually heard her voice?
Yeah, I did. It seemed like a long time, but it was only a week. I was preparing our home for Memorial Service weekend and out trimming some trees. And I'd gotten a little frustrated with myself that I hadn't planned that part a little better. So it occurred to me that I should go back to where we began our spiritual journey together, which was Neil Donald Walsh's book, Conversations with God.
Oh, I have that.
And we had it on tape. For the first year we were together, we listened to it. We bought it on tape. We listened to it once. It took about 3 commutes back and forth to work. The second time we listened to it, it took us 6 months. We paused the recording after every sentence and discussed it in depth. Sometimes we would discuss a sentence for an entire week. So that is where I went back to try and get my footing. And 15 minutes or so into that first audiobook, I literally heard her voice outside of my earbuds.
Can you describe the communication it was, like how it felt? Was it like an actual voice? Was it like a whisper?
It was an audible voice. I thought it was someone behind me the first time I heard it. I took my earbuds out. It occurred again, and it was quite clear. The exact phrase was, "Where have you been? I've missed you."
If you're joining us right now on FM 105.3 and 107.7, we have Time Bair here in the studio. He is discussing his conversation with his wife that passed. And if you have any questions for him in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. So it was like an actual audible voice. Now,
Yes.
you mentioned that about the automatic writing.
Yeah.
Now, what is that? Did that help you communicate with her, or is this something that you do to actually hear her voice, or was this something that was added on
It
after you started to hear her
it was
voice?
a progression of events. For the first year or so, I lived in the home that we had purchased together um, in Los Angeles, and I would go on early morning walks. I wasn't sleeping well. I would be outside at 2 to 4 a.m. and sometimes her voice would be audible. Most times I would be aware of it as in my mind, as a thought in my mind that I knew wasn't mine. We would have conversations. Um, I tried to document them as I would come home. Sometimes I was good at that. Sometimes I didn't do such a good job.
Mhm.
But eventually I could not, it was too physically hard to maintain the home by myself. And it was a
Yeah, of
larger
course,
home.
because your injury you had.
My injury, I had lost the greater part of our income was hers. So
Mhm.
it really was a strain financially to afford the larger house. So we had actually discussed what would happen when she passed away, that I should sell that home and move out here to Palm Springs, where prices were a little bit less. I would have income to hire help if I wanted it. Um, so I put that into place. And this was about almost a year and a half after she passed that I moved out here.
Mhm.
And by that time, my pain had gotten to the point where I just couldn't go on walks anymore. And it really felt like I'd lost her. I couldn't get outside. I was barely able to walk to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. Um, so um, I felt like I was really in trouble, that I had just totally lost her. And then one morning, instead of feeling as though I should get outside, I mean, sometimes it was an overwhelmingly compelling feeling, like there was no air in the house. Instead of that feeling like I had to get outside, I was very clearly told to go get a pen and a blank piece of paper and sit down and write. And I just started writing the first words that came into my head.
I noticed a lot of mediums do the automatic writing. So that's a way to channel a
Yeah,
deceased one from the other side.
it's
And so that's you had a feeling to do that.
I did. I did. It was just as strong as it used to be to get outside. Um, it was a very compelling feeling to go sit down um, and just write. And so I hand wrote whatever would come into my mind. The very first words was "my dearest love," and it was like, what? And I wrote 8 pages, faster than I could almost think.
Oh,
Um,
that's amazing.
if I write a letter, say if I were to draft an email to you, 3 or 4
Mhm.
paragraphs, it would take me 2 hours. With
But
her,
this came automatic.
yeah, with her, 9 pages is about a half hour's worth of writing.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
it's an entirely different process.
Now, Tim, for the skeptic out there, how do you know this was your wife and not something else?
Um, I often don't know where the sentence is going.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know often what the topic will be. Um, Sometimes, if someone's going to be a skeptic, there's probably no way that I could convince someone else that my experience is real. It's
Mhm.
just really hard to do that. However, um, there are kind of signposts along the way that I know my experience is very real. Um, if in my writing I tell a joke that wasn't in my thinking at all, that's different. Um, Often when I'm writing, I'll have my music stream playing in the background. My hearing is a little. I was in a machine shop for many years, so my
Mm.
hearing, I have a little
Yeah.
bit of a hearing loss. I typically cannot hear words unless I'm very focused. While I'm writing, sometimes on topic, it's like somebody turns the volume and the clarity up on my music stream, and it's the same as what's being said by my hand.
So it's pretty clear that it was your wife.
For me, it's very clear.
Confident.
For me, it's very clear. And if anybody knows her, if anybody knew her before she passed, it would be clear to them too. It's very much her voice, her mannerisms, definitely not the way I speak. It's different.
Mm-hmm. Did you tell anybody other than you? Did you tell anybody in your family or anybody else that this was happening?
Not in my family. As soon as I began hearing her voice on the morning walks, I began reading every book I could find on afterlife and afterlife communication.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I found the author Richard Martini and some of his books. He's written about 9 or 10 books on the topic. When the pandemic hit, he began doing a podcast with the medium Jennifer Schaefer.
Okay.
And I had a session with her, the first of, I think, 4 or 5 sessions I've had with her. And she's the one that the first words out of her mouth were, you're not only going to write letters from Mari Lynn, you are going to write 6 books.
Wow.
After I've been doing this for a little bit of time.
So how many did you work? You did a series, but there is a series of
there
books.
Is currently 1 book.
Okay.
I've referenced in that single book about 15 of the letters that she's written through me. There are about 300 of those interactions that I've documented. Out of those 300, there will be 3 more books. I'm working on the second one right now.
No, when you, I know myself, if I heard voices, I'd get scared. But it was your wife's voice that you heard.
Right.
You were no doubt in your mind, it was your wife. And
that's right.
When you first she made contact with you, did she say anything like where she was? Did she give any inclination where she could be? Or anything like that?
On my walks, one of the things that has occurred is I'm physically aware of her energy. As we're speaking, I can feel her next to me.
Well, let's give such hope to everybody out there. Lizzie, Lizzie, let me put her a little. She's asking a question. Make sure I got up there. And there you go. So she's asking, she said, so do you only channel your wife or can you channel other people in spirit?
Primarily my wife, but I had one friend asked if I could connect with his wife who had passed. And
could you?
I wrote a letter for him. One morning I felt like it was just time, and I wrote a letter from his wife. And when he first read it, it was like, that's not her, can't be her. It's just not her. And then he showed it to his daughter, and she told him, well, that's exactly Mom. You're not paying attention. And then he went through and read it again, and he was very convinced that I had written from his wife. At the encouragement of some of the people I've become acquainted with, actually, my mentor, who became a very dear friend, challenged me to write from guides. And so I tried, and that's going to be somewhere in book 5 or 6.
Okay. Well, when you write your book,
Diet was my mentor for about 1 phone call, and she became one of my dearest friends.
Okay. When you write your books, okay,
Sure.
How do you know, like when you're writing 300 letters to choose from, how did you decide which one to put in the book?
That is such a good question, because that was the hardest. That was the hardest thing. I first started, I thought I would code them based on the information that was in it. And that got too complicated. It just got too complicated. And so I read each of the 300, and I basically just put the document in a separate folder, yes or no. And that got it down to about 150. And then I did it again, yes or no. So I just went through an elimination, and I came up with about 20. What I was looking for were messages.
So was there some kind of a message you wanted to convey?
I wanted this first one to be kind of our story.
Okay.
So I wanted her messages to support what we had been through, to point out some of the challenges that we had been in, things that we had been through together that we had overcome. My injury, her illness, our challenges with our blended family. And it just became, I have this letter. In order for you to understand this letter, you need to understand this part of the story. And so I started with the letter and then wrote the backstory for that letter. And I did that about 15 times and then blended those backstories into one single narrative as best I could. Our story is not one that has a direct beginning and end because of many circumstances we were in. Some of the challenges we faced, it seemed we had overcome them and it would recede and then it would pop up again 5 years later. So some of the story is kind of, it's here and then it's there and then it's here. But that's kind of the way the book was written. Kind of from the end and then back to the beginning to support what we did.
I found it fascinating that Richard Martini, he actually did the foreword to your book.
He did
too. And I thought that was interesting. And how do you feel about, how did his perspective add to the story?
His work is pretty incredible. His first book is Flipside, A Tourist Guide to the Afterlife. He had a really dear friend, a very close person to him that passed away in 1996. And he had experiences with her, and he felt that he should be able to find her. It's kind of similar to my story, but not exactly. And in his journey to do that, he started filming people under hypnosis, and he's deep hypnosis, regressive therapy, past lives therapy. And that's where he began his this vast amount of data that he's got, that he's filmed. And that led him to a medium, Jennifer Schaefer. That led to a series of several more books. So while our stories are not the same, they're sort of parallel. His stories made it feel like I was not crazy. I think that's the.
Of course, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
There's true, like Cindy says, the story is proof that true love is forever and doesn't die. I mean, this is
absolutely.
This is awesome.
If I could distill this down to just a few phrases, that would be it. Is that not only does it not die, but it can be the same as it was. Mari Lynn and I have conversations all day long, every day, and about everything that's mundane. We watched the Pittsburgh Steelers football game together today. I really don't care about the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I was anxious the entire time. That was her team.
Oh, wow.
I had this feeling of nervousness. After she was injured, we could no longer sit in the same couch. It was too painful for me to be near her while she was watching football, because it was a physical event. she would move, she would jump up and down, her legs would bounce. So this anxious behavior is not me, it's her while we're watching Pittsburgh.
That's such a neat. That's so nice that you share that with her. I'll just take a real quick pause. I just want to thank Sebastian for being here, Cindy, Dilette, Lizzie. I think Dilette. Is that how you say her name? That's one of
Yeah,
your fans.
yeah, yeah.
That's one of your fans. Just thank you so much for being here tonight. Remember, if you have a question for Tim, please put it in the chat. And we are on United Public Radio Talk. I'm so glad to have you all here tonight. So if you have any questions for Tim, please drop them in the chat. It's a fascinating discussion. I love hearing stuff like that because I know as you guys all know, a lot of my family have passed away, and it gives you hope that your love doesn't die. And this is something. Do you think anybody can do this, or do you think it's just because you
one
and
degree
your
or
wife are so
another.
in love? You
I,
think?
I think to one degree or another. She points out that we're able to connect on this level because we've worked at it for many lifetimes. This is not something that just occurred out of the blue. But that's not to say that other people don't have those very deep and strong relationships,
Yeah.
even if they're not aware of them in this lifetime.
And your reviews on Amazon have shown that there's a lot of how there's reactions of stories, how your book has touched them and impacted them personally. So that's great to know. I mean, you can go by you're helping a lot of people out there. And you also mentioned that you have conversations with Mary Ann and you're receiving letters. But how long has this connection influenced your everyday life? I mean, like you said, you do this every day. Has it made your spirituality grow?
Oh yeah. We were both raised in very fundamentalist religion, which kind of stunted our growth in this area. While we understood that this was who we were, it was difficult to express it because our vocabulary was still based in those religious values. So as we began to realize that we were more connected than just this one single lifetime, we were just aware that this was going to occur.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as in my daily life, it's profound. I don't do anything without her. This is where I feel that we're a little bit unique. I don't work. I live on 4 acres with just my dog. I don't sleep particularly well. I'm up at 4:30 to 5 in the morning every day. We watch the sunrise. Mari Lynn and I watch the sunrise. I can feel her holding my hand as I go to sleep at night.
That is so wild.
So again, we may be. I've stopped asking the word. We're framing a question in terms of, is this normal?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I start framing it in more, is this common?
Did you ever see if it was common, or is this something other people can do, or just are you looking into that?
I believe that to one degree or another, everyone has this available to them in some way, whether it's just a sign that brings your memory back to your loved one. And the question I ask people when they tell me, oh, a song played and I thought of my loved one, it's like, well, are you sure your loved one didn't play the song for you to think about them? And does it matter either way? The end result is you're thinking of them. Yeah. And when you're thinking of them, they're back in your life. They're there for that moment. Can you stretch that moment out? Or is it important to stretch that moment out? So yeah, I think that everyone could do this to one degree or another. I'm not saying that everybody could write a letter, and I'm not saying that what we do is the pinnacle of this kind of story. I don't believe it can be. And I don't think that we are unique in the world. There must be more people like me.
Yeah. We have a question, but I just want to stress it. Tim isn't saying he's a psychic, so he can't really answer Alexandro. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. If you can get back with your boyfriend or not. He's not a psychic. He's just explaining he has conversations with his wife through writing letters to her, his wife who passed. So he's not a psychic. He's not saying he's a psychic. So
that is true for now.
For now.
I have learned that that if I say I can't do something, somebody's going to challenge me and make me do it. So we'll just let it ride for now. I don't know where this journey is headed.
Yeah, it's a wonderful journey for sure. If you have any questions you'd like to have Tim answer, put them in the chat. And what advice would you give to somebody who's grieving and seeking a connection with their loved ones who passed away?
Grief is one of the things that actually puts a block up that makes it more difficult. It's not impossible, but it kind of filters the connection a little bit. I will give you what Rich Martini, the Martini method. This is what he says: get a photograph of them out. For me, get a photograph that brings up joyful emotions, not a picture of your loved one as they were reclining in hospice, but something that brings joy. Something, not the last picture ever taken unless that brings joy. Focus on the picture and ask a question and wait for a response. It won't be today, maybe. It may be a month. But at some point, you will ask a question and you'll be halfway through speaking the question and you will hear the response before you're done.
Wow. So you're saying get a picture of something that you shared together, a joyous moment, and then try to meditate on that.
Just focus on it. Focus on the moment. Take yourself back to that moment. And it may even be an object. It could be a ring. It could be a set of car keys. It could be a location, a place in a particular park that you enjoyed sitting, doing something. Do those activities. Take that picture and actually do take as much time as you need to focus on the joyous moment. And let that joy bring you back. It may be overwhelmingly difficult to begin with. There are the process of stepping out of grief is not a single step. Jennifer Schaefer's father, who has passed, on their podcast has come through, and he has said, try to bring grief into nostalgia. Grief is only bad, negative thoughts. Nostalgia is good and bad. And that's where you begin to heal.
That's good. That's something to think about. I mean, everybody's going to experience grief at some point in their life, and you have to do something to help. And I know personally that I would sit for hours and just cry. And I'd ask my mom or my sisters or brothers to come through. They never come through during the day. That's mostly in my dreams. And they say if you dream of your loved one, that's actually them. Now, do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah, quite often. I mean, I imagine that I could have a dream that's just me thinking, but there are dreams that are so profound and so clear that it can't be anything but her coming to help me. I still experience periods of time where grief is just overwhelming. I still do. I expect I will for a long time, maybe forever. But what I understand now is it's not the loss of Mari Lynn I'm experiencing. It's the loss of the physical connection. It's the loss of the I do not experience a separation from her unless I allow myself to become discouraged. But I do miss seeing her dancing in the kitchen while she's cutting stir fry up.
Yeah.
You know, I do miss those moments. I miss those physical things, going places, having her drive me when I'm not feeling well. Those things, they are always going to be moments of loss. But it's the physical part that is the loss. It's not the connection.
Definitely the physical part. Cindy says, you are on an amazing journey. I have had communication with loved ones my entire life. I was taught as a child, this is possible. Haven't tried writing yet, but Cindy, you should try it. Now I write, I have conversations with Christ. I write every morning, dear Jesus, good morning, Jesus. And I talk to him every day, telling him all my problems. And I guess that's could be I'm communicating with the Holy Spirit. But it's sort of what you're talking about. It's like love letters. I mean,
Yeah. That sounds very, very similar.
Yeah, I did that. Started to do that there was a TikTok challenge, and I started to do that. It's been 2 months now. I've started to do that, so it's like sort of like that. What does Cindy say? Definitely, I will. Yeah, definitely, Cindy should try it. I mean, we all have these moments where we want to communicate. See, my problem is with all like mediums. How do you know for sure? Like you know for sure you're speaking with your wife.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know that's your wife. You know her essence. You know her personality. But I get scared, like if I'm talking to somebody, but I do truly believe that there is a connection after death. There has to be. I mean, I'm dreaming of my family all the time. And just recent, like in last January, my mom's on her birthday, I wasn't dreaming. I actually felt her in my presence in my room. Johnny, what did you say? Wait a minute. This is hard to keep up with the chat. Wait a minute. What does he say? Yes, definitely is talking to. Yes, you're definitely talking to your wife, and that just gives you so much hope. When it is your time, that she's going to be there waiting for you. That has to be such a blessing.
It truly is. It truly is. And what brings me to a point where I feel more confident is I have faith in several of the mediums, actually all the mediums that I do know are incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And when I talk to them about Mari Lynn, it's like going on date night with three of us. Because they're talking to her, I'm talking to her, she's talking to both of us. It again, it reinforces that I'm not crazy.
No, yeah.
Because I was raised to believe that this was like fast tracking yourself to hell. So just, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you think of it that way.
And I believed that for 30 years until I met Mari Lynn. And then it kind of, there were a lot of inconsistencies that we found in the belief system we were raised with that just didn't make sense anymore, based on our own personal experience. Mm-hmm. So that, and when we got together, we got thrown out. So,
well, that's amazing. I mean, you have to think of it that way. If other people have heard you talk, I mean, they communicated with her, Mary.
Yeah.
And you're getting the same messages. The same messages, so it validates what you were trying to, say to each other. I mean, what she was saying to you, and they could validate, yes, that's what she's saying.
The first 3 mediums I spoke to all said, within the first paragraph of speaking to, oh, you're going to write 6 books from her, from others in spirit, and then for yourself. So,
I see a movie.
oh my goodness.
I see a movie. Somebody should be writing a screenplay on this. I see a movie.
I'm terrorized just by 6 books. So if we start talking that way, somebody else is going to have to help me out.
Oh, yeah.
This is just well outside of, I mean, I barely got out of high school. And I think it's not because I couldn't do the work. It just made no sense to me.
No, high school, college doesn't make any sense to me, especially these days. You know, what's the point of having a college education? I mean, it just seems like it's a waste.
I try not to have an opinion on that because I've got 13 grandchildren that.
Oh, no.
I want to see them go to college at some point.
Yeah, well, trade school.
Yeah.
Trade school is good.
Anything.
More trades. Yeah, we need more trades, and more plumbers, more carpenter. Try to get your house remodeled. You can't even find a carpenter that wants to work.
That is true. That is
true.
I see Cindy's got a question.
Okay, let's see. Put her up here. Does your wife want you to continue to bless others with this love story?
She's driving the car. I
think she's driving very good.
I don't have a choice. After a while, I was writing. Back to Rich Martini. He has a forum on Quora titled after his books, Hacking the Afterlife. And it's a place where you can safely share these kinds of stories. And when she said it was time to share, I thought that was a safe place. And so I posted some of the letters there with some of the explanation. And she told me in those uncertain terms that wasn't good enough.
She said that?
Yeah. I am often put in my place. The kind of things that you wouldn't think to do to yourself. In many ways, my conversations are about when I should limit myself and when I should get out of my head and allow myself to expand to new things. So absolutely, she wants me to share this in a continuing way, which is what brought the book about. It took about a year from the time I started consolidating the letters to get it to print. And it goes into detail about how we lived our lives before, during, and after. It's actually in 3 sections: before, during, while we were married, and then after she passed.
Wow. So you have enough stuff.
I have more material than I could use in a lifetime. I really do. And more is coming every day. I am not writing as often as I was 6 months ago, but that's because I spent the time actually writing the book. It seems that I need the quietness of the morning to do both things, and I run out of gas, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It takes something out of me to write.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Does it take? I know a lot of psychics, when they're communicating, that it takes a lot out of them.
I'm tired after I write from her. I'm tired after I write the book. Writing the book, I'm tired after I take one of our handwritten letters and get it to type so that I can store it in a computer instead of just having a page written. I wouldn't say it's draining. It is both exhausting and exhilarating at the same time, if that makes sense.
How many years went on? How many years have you been doing that, writing letters?
I wrote the first letter from her in May of 2020.
2020.
Through most of the year 2021, I was writing 4 to 5 letters a week.
Wow. 4 to 5.
It was intense, and it was often. Now it's 3 or 4 a month, but it's again because I'm using those morning creative hours to actually start consolidating. The next book is titled um, from injury and illness and loss into healing.
Mhm.
And it once again tells part of our story. And so I'm going through all 300 letters to find those that speak to those topics.
Those are a lot if you think about it, because you said the morning is when are more creative
Yeah.
or more you can hear her stronger in the morning, or that's just when you have the more energy in the morning?
That's when I have more energy to actually do the writing. I hear her all day long. I literally do. I was planting a hedge, and she said something really silly about using her hands instead of mine. And it was like, you don't have hands. I mean, we joke about stuff. She encourages me to stop working so hard outside so that I don't
Overdo it.
overdo it and re-injure myself and wind up.
How did you injure
I
yourself?
fell lifting weights.
Oh my, lifting weights, you fell.
I was doing squats, and I fell.
Oh
And
my God.
I destroyed 3 levels of discs in one.
Ah,
So I'm fused from L3 down. That's about
how
halfway.
heavy weights were you lifting?
I was only using 225 pounds,
And you fell.
and
They
I
were
sat
just
straight
too.
down. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So it was, yeah, it was painful.
I bet it was painful.
It was in the company gym. It got complicated because I was actually a salaried employee, so I was being paid.
Oh.
So it wound up being a workers' comp case, right?
Oh, geez.
Right when the California workers' comp system was being redone. It was highly corrupt, and so they went after all the doctors, and all of us patients suffered dearly.
Oh,
So I spent 10 years in that. If I'd gotten treatment properly, I would have been
you
okay in 6 months. I may never have, played softball or football, but
that's a horrible accident.
I would not have been in a wheelchair for 2 years.
Oh, God.
So yeah, that's what I did. 3 surgeries.
That's tough.
And it's all,
That's
I mean, it's all in the book. I try to document enough of the story so that the letters in the last half of the book make sense. So you know what she's talking about when she says she slept on hospital floors.
yeah,
You know why she said that. I have to tell the story about why she slept on the hospital floor.
that's just yeah. That's a tragic accident. That's horrible. You never hear that one. Lifting weight, trying to prove yourself and you hurt yourself. That's
Yeah, the
terrible.
goal was to be in the best shape of my life by the time I turned 40. And
Oh,
I turned 40. I was in the best shape of my life. And 3 months later, I had a cold, so I was using less weight, or I would have been a quadriplegic. If I'd been
oh my
using the
God.
400 pounds I normally use to work out,
Talk about a
I would have smashed a lot worse.
fate.
Um,
Irony. I tell you. Oh, that gives me chills. Getting back to your wife. So this was over so many years, and you continue now. So she hasn't passed. I mean, she hasn't left you. So she hasn't gone to the other realm. I take it.
I'm not an expert in how all that works, but what I believe is that spirits are not bound to the other realm or to this realm.
Mm-hmm.
Their time and physics are entirely different for her.
Mm-hmm.
It can seem to me as though she's with me and all 13 of our grandchildren simultaneously.
Oh wow.
That's what it seems to me, but to her, maybe not so much.
Does your grandchildren or they can communicate with
my
her?
kids know that she's there, and she helps them along their path. She guides them, she encourages them, but they don't hear anything specific from her. They just are aware that
Mm-hmm.
she's there, which is, to me, that to have them be able to even do that is a huge victory, because they were
Yeah.
being raised in a very restrictive belief system where this would not occur. They would not have known that if we hadn't come
Yeah,
together.
it's like Grandpap can talk to. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of.
And they each have their belief systems, but they understand that I do. The way I was raised, I was going to be the same person as my great grandfather. It was all just exactly the same, generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way my children were being raised until we decided that that was not what we wanted for them. So they chose their own way.
Yeah, Dinette. She is
Diet
crossed.
says she's crossed. So
She's
yeah,
crossed.
Diet's the expert. I'm not.
No, she's a medium.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you believe she crossed over? Well, it should be comforting. But it's just amazing how she can still communicate. If she, that's what I like. I get confused. Maybe Jeanette can answer this, and she's a medium. If she's crossed over, I always thought that once they crossed over, that they don't communicate that much. I thought that if they were still here, they communicated more. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if she can answer me, but just trying to. Okay, Cindy has a question too. Will your children try to communicate with you upon your death? Oh, that's a good question, Cindy.
They may. I'll leave them instructions on how to do it instead of trying to figure it out on their own like I had to.
Okay, give me some instructions.
Okay, again, we're back to the picture.
Okay, get the picture.
Picture or a thought of something that is uplifting, that's joyful. And just start asking questions. And it could be, who was there for you when you crossed over? It could be something maybe that you don't know the answer to, but that you can verify somewhere else.
Should you do some kind of a prayer before you do this?
Just quiet your mind.
Quiet your mind. So you have the picture, and you picture something that you shared together as a happy moment. Now, is that when you pick up a pen and try to do the automatic writing, or
For quite some
wait?
time, I would begin my morning begins with making coffee, getting to. I have a front room with picture windows, so I can watch the sunrise.
Oh, good.
I'm usually there a couple hours before sunrise, but I get there. I will go through my phone and make sure all my emails and anything crazy that happened in the night,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed it and I can set it aside. I know that it's there. I've checked. I don't have to think about it. For quite some time, I would take out a picture. I had 3 or 4 pictures of her. For me, it was always her eyes. There was something just in her eyes that just burned right into me. And I don't know if anybody else ever saw it, but her eyes were so expressive to me. So I have photographs of her where I can see that feature, where I'm in that moment. I don't use the pictures anymore. I just turn the music down, spend however much time quieting my mind that I feel I need to.
Mm-hmm.
When I do that, I can literally feel her hand on the side of my face. I don't know if you or anyone else here has had someone who can touch you and buckle your knees just by putting their hand on, kissing your neck, whatever.
That's special. No, I don't have that.
That is the feeling I get.
My dog.
Yeah, in the morning, it's just so comforting. And I can feel her energy on me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even a little bit of a pressure. There's a little bit of electric. It's kind of like electric champagne bubbles.
Mm.
And I can feel that. And there are times when it's so intense that my body just goes limp from the comfort and the feeling of love that comes through. Um,
Well, that's amazing feeling. I take it.
and
Jeanette
occasionally I
says,
feel like she needs to write. So read what Diet said about
yeah,
what they do.
Jeanette, all spirits are able to communicate. The ones that have crossed come through from a place of love. They have returned to the place of love, aka afterlife, heaven. And those who have not crossed are still walking the earth with us and come from all different places when it comes to how or what they communicate. I think she
And she's
continued
got,
it
yeah,
on. Easiest way to understand those that cross are more metaphysical, and those that have not are more paranormal in terms that are more frequently used. Okay, I got it. That's I just got my 5-minute warning.
uh-oh. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I rely on Diet for that kind of stuff all the time. I have definitions and processes and things like that. What matters to me truly is that I'm with Mari Lynn still, and people need to know that it's possible.
I think we all need to know that because we all have to deal with it at one point. And to know that you can communicate with them this way is awesome. And I think it gives us hope. And Johnny said, I really enjoy the show. Thank you very much. Thank you, Johnny, for tuning in. I hope all my other followers come back since I came back. I like we're my what got me, I took a little time off. My mom passed away. I was grieving her so much that I couldn't do it. I just and so many
I
life
understand.
changes.
I do
And
understand. I
you
understand.
understand.
I
And
do.
I like so I would love to try this. I would love to try this to see if I could do something like this. I mean, I do talk to my mom all the time. I talk to her.
Do you
I mean, I
ever
talk
get
to my
a
dad
sense?
too.
Do you ever
What's
get a
that?
sense that when you talk to her that you have an understanding of what she might
Oh
have said?
yeah.
You have
I
an
have
imagining of what she might have said. How do
oh
you know
I
that that's not really what she said?
yeah,
You don't know.
you don't.
If you judge it and think that it's your imagination, you're missing a lot.
I don't want to think of it as my imagination. I want to think of
Why?
it as actually her,
And
you know.
I've had people who swore they could not um, communicate, that there were no signs or anything. And the first time they went to a medium, the medium said, "Well, didn't you see this?" "Oh yeah, but that's not them." They said, "Most definitely it was." So your loved ones are often communicating with you in a way that you're just not looking for. You're
Yeah.
expecting. Mari Lynn says, if you're looking for rainbows, you will miss the sunset.
Oh, that's a beautiful thought. If you're looking for rainbows, you miss the sunset. Yeah.
So if you're
Well, we'll
just
hope.
so focused, you'll just miss it.
Yeah, we're gonna have. Yeah, there's just so much out. Like today's a full moon, and I don't know about you guys, but my emotions are like this today. And I said I wasn't going to cry tonight because I don't want to do that. So
Oh, I hope I
yeah,
didn't make it. If you cry, I hope it's
I,
joyful.
I mean, it's I've been having a lot of joy lately in my life. That's what I want to bring to this show too, not just the unusual. What's going to just spice it up a little bit. We have 2 minutes, and I just want to say thank you so much, Tim, for being here tonight. Thank you for your insight and your story, your lovely, beautiful story about you and your wife. And if this helped anybody out there, I hope so, guys in the chat and all around the world. Tim, where can we find your book?
It is on Amazon. It is
Amazon.
in Kindle,
Okay.
Kindle Unlimited, and in print right now. It is not in
Great.
audio form yet because I don't know who could read it for me.
Well, you can go on.
I'm sure there's people that do that, and I
Yeah.
can find them. Right now, I'm overwhelmed with just
Well,
what
yeah.
I've done so far.
Well, you
But that's
take.
where you can find it. My website has a link to it, timbair6.com.
Well, thank you so much again for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And you have a wonderful Christmas coming up, New Year's. And thank you
Thank you
again
so
for
much for
joining us,
having me.
Tim. Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, we made it through week 2. We're going to be on Tuesday nights too. We have a really interesting show Tuesday night, 7 Eastern. I don't know if anybody follows TikTok or not, but there's a strange doorway in the cliff of Oregon. So we're going to find out who is in that cliff and what can we expect from it. You never know. It could be some kind of giant or Nephilian from who knows where, Book of Enoch or something. But thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you for participating. I'll see you again on Tuesday. You all have a nice evening and to stay tuned for Sean Kelly, my favorite person in the world, Into the Night with Sean. Have a great night.